This program do not necessarily reflect or represent those of the owners, management, or advertisers of Pacific Telestations Inc. This message has been brought to you by the stations of KUAM.
You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Exciting show tonight. Oh, buddy, that actually have known him over the phone because we've done a couple of phone interviews together between our studio, Isla 63 and Simone Sanchez High School government class, morning class that is. How you doing? Good evening,
good.
Andre.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Andre, of course, Baynum. The students are listening right now. I should be doing your homework, but we'll take a little time off. Thank you again for accepting my invitation to come on tonight.
No problem.
I called you in for being involved with the Guamanians for Fair Government.
Right.
Had an opportunity to see yourself as well as other organization members for Fair Government, Guamanians for Fair Government, when you guys testified last week at the legislature. I want to start off first because we talked a couple times to you and your students as well, and your government class in the morning about different issues in government. Again, the general premise of this, and I heard you say, it's not that we're not saying that you deserve it or you don't deserve it or he deserves it, she deserves it, whatever. That's not what we're talking about here. You're at a school, and I will be remiss if I didn't mention this. You're at a school that we know is greatly challenged.
Yes.
Okay, I know that it's going to be remodeled or fixed here in the very near future. Right. But at this point, I guess raises have come before your fixes.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the school itself, has been in the news, quite a bit over the years, and action has been taken. I know that there are some bonds or bills or something like that to go ahead and rebuild, but that was one of the reasons that when I heard what happened on November 21st, 2014. And as I was driving to my school, it came on that they had passed this bill. And I just, for some reason, I just couldn't, I couldn't fathom how and why that, our elected officials would sucker punch, the community like that, especially me, and I have a big gut, so
and you can take it, right?
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, when I first heard about it, I was upset because of the process.
Yeah.
The process of hearing the bill and having a public hearing was not conducted. And back in January, they say, yeah, back in January, it was done and all of this, but that bill, that Competitive Wage Act bill that they were discussing back in January, they removed themselves. They removed elected officials and cabinet and all of that from that bill.
So it wasn't a part of conversation, so it was carved out.
Right, yeah. And then that bill, which had a public hearing and was debated and discussed, was passed. But when it came to this separate bill, there was no public hearing. But there's a continual, they continuously say that there was, and I think a vast majority of the people in the community, and even some people were down there, Bob Klitsky and other people that were there, saying that this process was skipped over.
Now let me ask you this, because as a government teacher, so you're a government teacher, you talk to your students, basically local government, national government, federal government, and all that, and the process of bills becoming law. How do laws become law, and and all that. And part of that, of course, is the public hearing process, good, bad, or indifferent. People, talk about it, give an opportunity. So how do your students feel then when they say, well, Mr. Baynum, well, wait a minute, because the process, as we know of, should involve this, and we don't really. We haven't got any notice regarding that, and they said that they did have this public hearing. In the context of what they said they had, it's really not a concentrated thing. It was carved out, and it has nothing to do or very little to do with what had happened.
Right. I mean, that we went over that issue after the bill was passed, and we started to talk about how, and we kind of did a mock-up. I had people vote for who the leaders would be, and have a little debate in the classroom, so they understood the importance. And I was initially, angry with that. But then when the news started reporting on it, and the PDN and yourself started to talk about this bill that was passed, and I heard the I heard the reasoning as to why they did this, you know, and stuff. I became you know, disappointed almost, you know.
You know what got me, because I
Right.
followed this whole process through as well. I followed again even the public hearings, and I gotta say public hearings in the minimum wage. You know, when they finally settled for a $1 increase, January 1st, 2015. Remember that happened. So I followed this process, and I like the process because there was great public debate. There was great public debate on it, and a lot of the arguments I agree on in regards to a study, a comprehensive study needs to be conducted to see again, you know, I mean, what the unintended consequences may be. Now, this is a $1 raise, okay, $1 raise, which if you're making minimum wage and you're working 40 hours a week, 80 hours every two weeks, basically you're going to get $80 more per paycheck, yeah, okay, and you multiply that if you have 26 pay periods or 24, whatever it may be. Really a lot less than maybe a person, a single elected official at this point to do that. So if a $1 makes a big difference in the economy, my thing is we are on the same government. I think I mean we drink by the same trough, though we don't.
Right.
So with that. Again, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth between the business community and the lawmakers. There were a lot of interaction. I mean, heated argument as to who was right, this and that. You don't know what you're doing. Yes, we do. I'm doing this for the people. This, that, and but both sides were doing this for the people. You know.
Right.
But when I watched you guys in the public hearing and this presentation, none of the senators were saying anything. I mean, they weren't having the active dialogue that they were when the minimum wage was looked at to go up.
Correct. So, you know, the due diligence that they should have put into this bill, which passed on November 21st of last year, all the other bills had all this discussion and debate, and I'm sure they researched and everything was reasoning, but the only question that I heard asked of that whole bill, 32208, was, do we have the money? No one asked, well, where would 85,000 put us in relation to other state legislatures in the nation?
Sure.
What would Retrotrix, how much would this our Retrotrix get? You know, which is 15,000 for some, I heard, and as low as 11,000. But could that money have been used somewhere else? Could it have been put in bus services for the transit system? Could we have, you know, shelters for them? Could it have helped the schools?
Sure.
You know, could it have helped all of these other things?
No.
So was this critical thinking done? Because my understanding is that it was passed in one day. You know, I don't know. You guys might want to do your research and find out, was this the fastest bill that ever passed? You know, in legislative history, I don't know.
You know,
why wasn't there any
when
due
the
diligence?
legislature stands to benefit, believe me, things can happen right away.
Well, you know, that's your opinion, but I'm not
Sure.
here to malign anybody.
Sure,
I'm not
sure,
here to, you know, as a matter of fact, the legislature has done a lot of good things. I mean, with my students, whenever we have a debate or we do some sort of you know, a field trip down there, they're very accommodating.
Sure.
They all come, and same with the governor. He's a good person. My students, I remember a couple years ago, you know, they did a day in the life of the governor, and I think they went on your show and
Yes,
and
they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
And he accommodated them, and he fed them, and he took them everywhere, and he was just, you know, it's good. But I disagree with him on this issue, and I disagree with our good senators. You know,
and that's what democracy is all about. That we can agree to disagree.
Right.
And again, the opportunity, because I actually I was interviewed with about this situation as well, and I was asked whether or not I would have voted for it. I wouldn't have voted for it. You know, and I think the majority of my colleagues, at least from the Republicans at that point, that I was serving with at the time, I can almost say that a great number of us, if not all of us, would have probably voted against that. As a matter of fact, we voted to remove our annual leaves. I mean, I think you heard some of these arguments that our annual leaves were removed and on all that. Well, you know, I wouldn't move to remove that if there was a mechanism to use that.
Right.
But it wasn't designed to use. I mean, I remember the first time that, I mean, when I served legislature, I tried to use, you know, because I was going on vacation, and I tried to submit my leave form, and it was sent back to me. This says, nobody can sign off on them because
who's gonna sign it,
yeah, because you know we're your you are our bosses, and we can't give it to the speaker because speaker's not our boss. So you are your own boss. So it's sat there. So there was no mechanism to use the annual leave. The annual leave was designed to again to sit there and collect. You collect your 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever it may be, and the end of your term is meant for you to get a cash out.
And you know, it's not just you, but you know, other media on the island. You know, everyone has this consensus with the PDN and Marianas were right, and even your competition PNC. You know, one of the longtime broadcasters, John Anderson, also came on it and had reservations about this. So the media is the watchdog for us. We get our information. We don't all have time to go down there and follow every bill. So the consensus of all the media and a consensus of a lot of people that I spoke with, including the 1,600 people that signed that petition, is to repeal. You know, give it a chance. You know, and do it over again. You know, and bring it to the people because we're fair. We just want fair government, and that's what we're about. But going back to what you were saying about democracy, democracy is not just about government, but it's about principle, and that's where you know, we as a group stand, and we believe that, you know, before anything, the people should come first, you know, and in hearing the arguments, you know, they always refer to the Hay study as if it dropped from heaven, and now it's the 11th commandment, and we must follow. Those were just recommendations. If someone comes to my house and says, I recommend you get a pool and you expand your house and maybe put a, you know, gazebo out there, I'm going to have to give it some thought. But, you know, what happened in this process? Why wasn't that due diligence given? You know, another defense was...
Well, if I'm going to use your money, you know, Andre, I probably will give it the okay.
Yeah, I understand. And, you know, and see, that's what we're trying to look at is that, you know, the issues of the people and the issues of the community should take precedence over your own interest. Like I said, you know, having the community's needs looked at first, I think is vital.
There we go. You know, I'm over time. I got to go pay some bills. We'll come back, continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Be right back.